That's a very different buying or search experience versus happening to stumble across a piece of content that then they discover, oh, I didn't know that was a solution, or this person could offer that. So there is a difference of being on social media and using social media. So for years, I was on social media. So how do you know if you're on social media?
This is the Business of Advice podcast, where we help good advisors become great business owners. Welcome to this episode of the Business of Advice. Our guest today is going to be a great one. She has a top-ranked podcast, is an incredible keynote speaker, has over 1 million followers on social media, and founded the tech company Social Curator, which is a monthly subscription service that serves really, it's like a digital marketing agency that you carry around in your pocket. Has been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc. magazine, and now she's our guest on the Business of Advice podcast. Jasmine Starr, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for making the time. I always like to give our friend Rory Vaden credit for introducing us, so he can't say enough good things about you. So excited to have you on here for a few reasons. One, but we speak to so many business owners, financial advisors specifically, but a lot of others listen to them. And this ability to cultivate and build following is really, really important, and you've done it so well. You have this huge following and influence today. But I always love starting out here. It wasn't always that way. So maybe just take us back to the beginning and tell us about your journey to where you're at today.
I once heard that every professional was once an amateur. And I'm going to start this conversation by saying, an Olympian never judges somebody when they see them work out. And an NFL player never looks at the guys at the park on the weekend and scoffs at what it is they do. And a true professional is never looking at an amateur wondering what it is they're doing. And so it's like, to start that conversation, of anybody who is going to have an opinion wherever you are on your journey, as you build a personal brand, as you build trust and credibility online, the people who have an opinion are often those who are not doing much with their own life and ambitions and aspirations. So when we talk about following, please know that it's totally and completely anchored in the fact that you're going to show up exactly as you. And the more you're able to do that, the more you're able to attract people who appreciate what it is you do, who are ready to invest in what it is that you offer, who trust you. And that could be 2 people, it could be 200 people, it could be 2 million, it could be 200 million. The number itself doesn't matter as much as your dedication to consistency and serving people, because being in the game as long as I have been in the game of entrepreneurship, is I've cleanly and clearly seen people with massive social followings and they can't do 6 figures. And then I see people with like 6,000 followers who are doing multiple 7 and 8 figures. Yep. And it's simply by serving a very specific audience in a very specific way. So having said that, I have come to believe that any sort of marketing that I attempt is simply on the back of building trust with a small group of people. So sure, yes, I have developed followings on multiple social platforms, but it's applying that same approach. Is who can I serve? How do I speak to them? How do I build trust? How do I build authentic relationships? And how do I make myself the most primed to make an offer to those who need it the most?
So we're going to dive into a bunch of that because you've done it so well. When Rory introduced, I started following you, follow all your social media. From your approach, I would say it's a very comprehensive strategy. You have a huge following on Facebook, Instagram, a great podcast, YouTube channel. When you started, what was your strategy at the beginning? And then maybe talk through how it's evolved. And I'll just start with that question.
Okay, so when I first started, I just thought it was like a thing. It was like a thing to do. And I didn't realize at the time that there is a difference of being on social media and using social media. Now, we're just going to use social media as a case study because it seems to be like the hottest form of marketing at this point in time. But I understand a lot of the different mechanisms. I understand organic. I understand paid. I am a huge fan of still blogging, still having a newsletter. I am a huge fan of search-based discovery as well as intent-based and what I call search-based discovery and stumble upon. When somebody is going and looking for the thing that you offer, that's a very different buying or search experience versus happening to stumble across a piece of content that then they discover, oh, I didn't know that was a solution, or this person could offer that. So there is a difference of being on social media and using social media. So for years, I was on social media. So how do you know if you're on social media? Well, you post when you remember, you are infrequent at best. Oh, but when you want to sell something and you're ready to sell, you're out there selling, you're ready to sell. ABC, you're always been closing. I get that. But if you haven't done any sort of cultivation on the front end of that, you're not going to get the results that you want. And so then you raise an angry fist and then you say, oh, the algorithm, it changed. And oh, I'm being shadow banned. And we want to say that because it's easier than actually admitting we haven't put in the work to get the harvest. Now, when you are using social media, this is how you know you're using social media. When you show up consistently, when you have a strategy, when you stick to the plan and strategy, even if it's not getting you the results that you want, and that you fully realize and embrace that building your social platforms is a one-to-one job. That going viral could actually be the worst thing for your business. That's when you know you're using social media. So when I first started, I had to come to this moment of realizing that other people were using it effectively and I wasn't. And so then I thought to myself, okay, with the very limited resources that I have, I might not have resources, but I think I'm resourceful. And I simply started asking myself, what does my dream customer want to know? And I started sharing everything I knew. I am talking about everything. People are like, oh, I can't share my secrets. Baby, you don't have any secrets. You don't have secrets. Your secret is you. And the minute you lose sight of that, then you have lost the dang game. Because I believe that when it comes to creating content, people will not show up because they say, oh, well, that person's already said it or this person's already said it. Everything that is worth saying has been said already. Yep. What you need to do is understand the mechanism, the way that you do it, on what platform. If you're a poet, write poems. If you're a rapper, rap. If you are a writer, write. And if you're a content creator, create some dang content. And then the messenger. Because if we all acknowledge that the message is the same, but the mechanism is different, and the messenger, i.e. you, then you understand that there's a place for you in creating content, in putting your voice out into the world. And never before, and I'll end this tirade TED Talk right about here. Never before in social marketing history has it been ever easier for somebody to see your post. Here's why. So people are like, it's too late. I don't have a big following. Guess what? None of that matters. It is out. Everybody's talking about it. And when TikTok was introduced and it gained so much traction by doing the exact opposite of every social platform started copying TikTok. Here was the difference. In the beginning, your job and goal was to amass the most amount of followers, because organically, your most amount of followers would see about 2 or 3% of them would see the content that you're putting out. There was a time back in the early days where your organic content, would be seen by 8 to 10% of your followers. So people just started doing quick math. Well, if I got 10,000 followers or 1 million followers, that 10% gets greater. So that's what I should be doing. And then all of a sudden, when TikTok came around, they said, we're not going to necessarily show you content from people you follow. We're going to show you content that you just watch a lot. And what happens is that the TikTok algorithm became so good at serving up content that people wanted to see, they were not leaving the platform. And that is the business of every social platform, is to get enough eyes and attention. So now what we've seen is Meta. And now what we've seen is LinkedIn. They are indexing less by the people who follow you and showing your content to people who are most inclined to engage. So for somebody who says, oh, I'm a financial advisor and I only have 200 followers, guess what? You're one post away from 2 million. Get to work.
It's it is crazy how they've changed. TikTok has changed that game, I guess, in a way, is I think the easiest way to say it. Let me ask a couple questions around some things that you said there. Obviously, I think a thing, if they're not following you, should go follow for your content, but also just to watch your strategy behind it. You push out a lot of content across all of those channels consistently. Can you speak to a little bit of if there's an approach or strategy behind your content creation, how you go about like what goes where and, strategy for content?
Yes, I would love to, but I'm going to preface it by saying it took me a long time to get to this point. And oftentimes, whenever I talk about the strategy or the implementation, people immediately, after about second 13, tune out because they say, that's her, that's that, that's them. And the minute you approach any situation. I'm talking about from the soccer field, from a warehouse to a White House, you've already lost. You have to say, well, where am I in that journey and what might I do, even in the smallest percentage possible? So when we talk about content, I'm going to talk about a framework. So we all have different skill sets. I always say, do what is best for you. And so we start always with long form content. There was a time when I was creating that the blog, my blog post was the thing that led the content. That was what we call our anchor piece of content. Now, what you also could do is a long form video. If you're really great on video, that could be an anchor piece of content. And if you're a podcaster, a podcast could be long form piece of content. When my business was really growing a lot by organic search on SEO, my blog was leading the way. So I would start with a long, detailed educational blog post about what I was going to be talking about. And then I would get small pieces of that blog post and start disseminating them on whatever social platforms at the time made sense. And so, I was taking at the time 140 characters out on Twitter. And then at the time I was going to be putting a little bit longer than that on Facebook. But if I had a very long, detailed blog post, I would say, I'm creating a 3-part series about X. And so be sure to follow my page and be sure to engage so that you get parts 2 and 3. And so then what I was going to be doing is on Facebook, if I put out part 1 on Monday and part 2 on Tuesday and part 3 on Wednesday, by the time I got to Wednesday, I'd be writing Wednesday, but then at the bottom, linking back to Tuesdays and Mondays post, they're natively on the platform on Facebook. I wasn't trying to get or divert people out to my blog because I wanted actually people to go deep with me.
Yep.
And so now at the time of this recording, we've evolved and iterated because I realized that I'm a girl from the hood. So I'm going to squeeze a lemon for everything that it's worth. Our long form content is now led not by way of a blog. It's led by way of my podcast. And there was a time where I would be creating video content as a silo and podcast content as a silo. And then I started realizing, wait, I can actually double the amount of video content because I'm creating long form. If I were to record my podcast and create video simultaneously, I'm now able to double the output that I was doing for my YouTube only strategy. So now we've said we're going all in on the podcast. The podcast is going to be created on video and we're going to be extrapolating the audio. The audio will go out on the audio only platforms. The video will go out on video based platforms. But I am not going to be putting out a 57-minute video on Facebook. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting that long form video on YouTube. And then what I'm going to be doing is creating smaller segments from the podcast and posting them natively on Facebook in shorter videos, shorter horizontal videos around a particular topic. And then I'll point back, like, to listen to the full episode, go to YouTube or go to the podcast. And then from there, I am creating shorter 15 to 30 seconds vertical video. And this vertical video will be shared on Instagram as Reels, on TikTok as TikToks, and as YouTube Shorts. Now, the strategy of implementation is I just need to make sure that the content calendar is not posting the exact same content on multiple platforms at once. Because studies show that people hop from different platforms. And so if they follow me on Facebook and they also follow me on Instagram, if they're going and hopping between the two, there's a higher likelihood that they're going to see similar content. So I just want to make sure that I'm staggering the content at different days so that whatever their experience is on that platform at that time, it's nice in a state of flow. But as long as I'm saying, hey, this anchor content drops on a Tuesday, it goes to YouTube. So let me give a real life example. At the time of this recording, I'm going to be headed just in 2 hours to my college. They invited me to become a commencement speaker. And so I thought to myself, how many Latinas in this beautiful nation, God bless America, are giving commencement speeches?
It's pretty cool.
Not very many.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, okay, how do I maximize an opportunity here in terms of content and setting me up as an authority in the business world? So I am paying out of my own dime for me to have a videographer go to the event and record the 12-minute commencement. Our team, I said, it's got to feel much faster and in real time so the content doesn't come out 2 months later and it feels a little bit weird that there's a commencement ceremony speech in September when school's starting. So the videographer will upload the audio and video tonight. The editor will start working on it on Friday. We will have a preview on Monday. We will be posting on Tuesday. From Tuesday to Thursday, they will be editing the short clips from that so that I can then put out on social. So we started off a video that will go out on YouTube. It will also go out on Facebook. The short form verticals will go out on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And then what I'll do is I'll create a business framework around what I taught, the 4 principles that I had learned in undergrad. I'm going to apply it to the business world. I will create an audio and video podcast. I will insert the content from the commencement speech in it so that I get a longer form piece of audio and video that I will then start the cycle all over again.
That's cool. So not to put you on the spot, and this will come out after your commencement speech, but I was going to ask you, like, what are the points that you're going to hit? Is there like a message you want to get across to the graduates?
Yes.
So completely, we didn't have that question in the podcast notes. So yeah,
that's okay. I don't review the questions anyway in advance. I just want it to be real. And yes, I do. And I'm so happy you're testing me before I give this commencement.
Just letting you practice.
Notes.
Yeah,
I did. Hey, listen. You've got to show up so that you blow up. If I am not practicing, I will do everybody in that stadium a disservice today. So there was 4 key principles that I believed I learned at Whittier College, and the first one was consistency. And the second one was perseverance. And the third was creativity. And the fourth was determination. And those were those were skills I had to hone and practice in undergrad. And I didn't realize that they were actually preparing me for every life cycle, pivot, and iteration of my career. Those are now the foundational key tenets of how I've grown and pivoted my business.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to see it. So we're only a week away from getting to see it. So that's going to be cool. Congrats too. That's a really cool honor. So excited to watch the video of it. Okay. Before we got sidetracked hearing what you were going to talk about, you kind of started here, and then I was going to say this at the end, like what you just laid out. I'm sure someone who hasn't done a lot just heard all of that, which is a master's class in creating content, and said, oh my gosh, like where do I even start there?
Yeah.
If you were advising someone like, okay, you don't have a lot or you haven't done a lot, like here's maybe where I would start, and then you're going to build up to where you're at today, hopefully. So is there a good launching off point? And maybe it is like figuring out what that key piece is going to be, but just any advice on where to start maybe.
Absolutely. And this is, I'm so glad you asked that question as a point of clarity, because when you don't know the next step to take, you feel stuck.
Yep.
But I'm here to tell you the next best step to take, and the path will unfold in front of you. Far before you figure out what your anchor piece of content will be, I need every financial advisor who is listening to think only of the dream client they want to work with. And here's the beautiful part of that, is that all of us want to work with different types of people. There are financial advisors who love working with people in their 70s, men in their 70s. What are their goals, aspirations? Are they family men, or are they career oriented? Are they legacy oriented? One person, 3 different objectives, 3 very different financial plans, depending on what it is they want to do.
Yep.
Perhaps there's like a female financial advisor who said, I left college, I was so in debt, and I really want to work with a 26-year-old woman. Great. Figure out where she's stuck, what she needs, and how you're going to connect with her. And every time you figure out who you want to serve, and I am saying get so granular with who this customer is. And yes, you're going to attract different clients along the way. But when you know ultimately who you want to work with, and you drilled in on that, the messaging alone is going to start attracting the right person for you to work with. Now then, once you know the gender, the age, the objectives, and actually where they live, because people make different financial considerations when you're coastal and when you're in the Midwest. They just do. If we don't accept that as fact, I'm going to tell you, you don't want me in your game, because I will play it very differently. The minute we get so granular with where they go on vacation, why are they going on vacation? Where do they spend their luxury income? What kind of magazines do they read? What is their favorite show? Do they have multiple subscriptions to streaming, or do they own a library card? You tell me, if you have 3 or more streaming services, or you have a public library card, I'm going to tell you the way that you show up and attract that dream client is going to be very, very, very different. So once you know who that person is, then I want you to ask, how or where do they spend their free time? And the answer might not be social media. It might be a country club.
Yep.
And if it's a country club, I want you to do free financial seminars for every single person during happy hour, and you're going to host the bar tab. Yes, you are. If you're going after the 26-year-old female, you are building out content on Instagram. If you are going after the 52 professional male, you are on LinkedIn. If you're going after a 33-year-old mom of 3 who's single, you're going to be creating content in single mom Facebook groups. It is simply finding the platform. So once you know who you're targeting, and once you know where they spend their free time, then you just stick to that one platform. You hear that I'm on all these multiple platforms, but yes, it's been decades of doing this work and expanding in concentric circles.
Yep.
But I've always understood where that customer was. So once you know who they are, once you know where they spend that platform, then you want to list out their 3 pressure points. What do they want? And you can't say money, right? What do they really want? Really deep down. Do they want to be saving for their kids' education? Do they want to create legacy? Do they want to create or have money to take care of an aging parent? If you get into that psyche and then you create content for the best ways to save for college, what happens with an aging parent? How do you set up funds that grow with you? Or if you're targeting somebody who's later on in life, they might not have that money, and you're creating content of how to financially invest in your silver years. Your content will start attracting the person you want to work with on the platform you want to work with them. Focus on that platform only. And when you have enough leads coming in and you have somebody to help you lift the load, then focus on the second platform. But until you have mastered one, I just would not say to move on to the next.
That's great. Incredible feedback. I hope everyone takes that. Let me ask kind of a follow-up, because you said something there. And you do this masterfully. I'm curious your advice to someone else. Like, you just said, hey, here's the 3 pressure points and the content you create around that. You do a great job of creating educational content. I'll call that, for lack of a better terms. And I see some advisors who do that pretty well, right? It's kind of what they do all day. But I would say you also balance it really, really well with, I would say, like, personal side, maybe is the easy way to say it. Is there a balance there, where you're posting, family, vacation, stuff like that? Is there a balance there? Is there one that you would lean heavier towards when you're starting? I know that's a kind of an open-ended question, but like, how do you balance like the education versus the personal side?
It's great. It's great. It's great. It's great. And it entirely depends on who your target client is. If you are targeting, a 72-year-old male, there's a good chance that he's probably less interested in your recent vacation holiday than the 26-year-old female. So it's really putting out content that you think is going to help diversify you from your from your competition.
Yeah.
That is truly and entirely what it is. Furthermore, people say, yeah, but Jasmine, you share so much of your personal life. And I'm like, that's interesting, because if people actually realized it, I would say that I probably shared less than 0.01% of my personal life on social media. Occasionally when I go on a big family vacation, but here's the reason why I do this. I've been creating content on podcast, on video, talking about how I had been saving to take my family on a vacation on a Hawaiian holiday. And so when it happened, I dedicated 2 posts out of probably 6 weeks of content around that idea. So it was more of like a to close a button more than it was for anything else. But by and large, I'm putting out content that's going to be empowering my dream client, and then occasionally I will sprinkle in personal things. But here's the thing: my comfortability, and then as my daughter's getting older, we're having deep conversations around what this actually looks like, and I have to do a deep assessment. I do a deep assessment around every 6 months. What am I okay with? And so she has been featuring less and less and less as she's gotten older. But that is what I call the person on the airplane rule. So if I sat next to a wonderful, nice person on the airplane, would I show that person photos of my daughter? If the answer is yes, then I shall continue to post pictures of my daughter as long as she's consenting of it and she gets to an age where she gets to express that. If I would not share pictures with a stranger sitting next to me, then that is a clear indication it should not go out on social media. If I'm okay talking about my mother's battle with brain cancer with a person sitting next to me on a plane, that's like a thumbs up for me to share on social media. Would I be talking about personal elements of my family dynamic with a stranger on the airplane next to me? No, I would not. Therefore, I don't put it out on social media.
Yep. No, that's great. Great advice. I love the balance. And people should follow and watch how you do it because you do an incredible job with it. Let's talk a little bit about Social Curator. So this is a great tool for social media. Just open it up. Would you talk about how people listen to this could use that and how you've seen other businesses leverage the tool?
I want to speak specifically to financial advisors because that's the audience.
Yep.
And so what happens is oftentimes there is this thing we aspire and dream to do, financial advising, but then we realize that building it and marketing it are two separate things. And so you made this commitment to put a stake in the ground and say, I'm going to be a financial advisor, I'm going to build this business. And then all of a sudden, in equal or more proportion, you actually have to market it. And so people are like, I'm actually doing more marketing than doing the thing that I actually wanted to do. And then I say, well, welcome to the game of entrepreneurship. And so we created Social Curator because we saw many people in this exact position of it takes me so long, therefore I won't do it. And so what we've created is somebody comes into Social Curator, they create an account, they pick out their voice, they pick out how they refer to their customers. And this goes back to, are you targeting a 74-year-old man or a 26-year-old girl? The way that you speak to them on social media is different. We guide you through that process. A person builds a profile, and then you're able to go and say, can you please make me an Instagram caption building out my 3-day sale for Memorial Day? And then all of a sudden a caption comes out, and we follow a very specific framework for how we drive engaging content on social media. So there comes your caption ready to go if, say, you're building out on Instagram or you're building it on LinkedIn. And then you can ask, can I please have an idea for a 10-second reel around what was just written for the caption? Cool. And then it gives you like 2 seconds, say this, 3 seconds, say that. And then now you're like, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to turn on the camera. I'm going to share 3 tips about financial advising and preparing for your first family holiday or sending your kids to private school. And then you get the caption and then you post it. This is just about putting out content. This is about going in and say, I have an hour to do my marketing. Let me plan it. Let me schedule it. Let me be done with it so that on my day, I can go back to building and lesson marketing.
You talk, and it uses some AI tools as components in there. Obviously, that's the hot topic in the world right now. Just where do you see AI changing our approach over the next few years? Or let me ask that in a more specific way. What are the ways that you plan on leveraging that in your own business to improve what you're doing?
Well, I mean, I eat my own dog food. So Dottie is our social media manager. And she's driven by AI. But a lot of times what we saw with entrepreneurs early on, which is why we became very early adopters, is people, even though ChatGPT existed, they were having a hard time with the prompts.
Yep.
And then furthermore, they were repeating a lot of the prompts. So they would tell ChatGPT, I am a financial advisor. I live in this area. I target this person. So what we were able to do is to create a profile that archives all of this content and gets accustomed to the way that you speak and builds upon itself per user. So we're already implementing AI technology on a per user basis for Social Curator. Where do I see it going in the future? I mean, not in the future. I mean, I see it happening this year. There is a good friend and peer. His name is Brendan Burchard, and he had AI, and every video, every podcast, every book he had ever written was run through AI. And now you can ask his AI agent questions based on where you're at. You can literally ask this agent anything. So for instance, as a financial advisor, if you created a lot of content, you would be able to create your own AI model. So people can say, I have $13,000 to invest. I would really love to see a return in 7 years. What do you recommend? And this AI agent, based on your own content, it's built on your personal financial investing advice, is giving a response. Furthermore, I also see in the future, probably in the I think it's gonna be 8 to 10 years, there's gonna be like real, non-distinguishable AI versions of ourselves.
Yep.
Not a voice that kind of sort of sounds like you, but this is a full-on, I'm gonna create a piece of content, and based on my facial expressions, on my voice annotations, I could feed it a script and it will come out with the exact work that I'm doing now. Podcast, long-form video, short-form video, viral components, blog post, Pinterest pieces out for content. And then one step beyond that, I firmly and wholeheartedly know, it is not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when, that business influencers will exist entirely in AI, not off somebody's personal brand. So there's going to be an AI financial advisor who is going to be creating so much more content and giving advice and be a lead magnet for a series of financial advisors. That's the future.
It's fascinating and scary at the same time. Like to think of the video and the content that can be created, right? You're already starting to see pieces of it. It's not great yet, but like the speed at which it's evolving is pretty fascinating.
Absolutely. And if we were to take a big step back, is that we as humans, not you, not me, the human race, we have a tendency to be worried or scared of change. And when the internet descended, when people just, I'm guessing we are of the age where there was a time where people on the news were saying, you have to put your credit card in on the internet. Oh my God, never is this going to happen. No one's going to buy things on the internet. And then they did. And there was a time where people brought the television into your home and it was going to be the rotting of the brains and the subversive messages. And then they said the same thing about the radio. And then they said the same thing about the printing press. This is technology. And the thing about humans is that we have been able to evolve and iterate. And there will become times, and I mean, gosh, now I sound like I'm wearing a tin hat and these financial advisors are going to be like, what is this girl talking about? I do believe that at some point in the future, there's going to be a form of social media that existing on the blockchain and the content you put out will become verified. And I think that people who are using like deep fakes of other people, there's going to be a way for us to verify that in the future. We become scared because we apply our present knowledge to future capabilities. But what we need to do is apply our future capabilities with our future knowledge. Then the game becomes a little bit different. That's
great advice. I see a lot of people, I think, worry about it in like the political realm, right? Of like what type of videos are going to come out and stuff. So that is great advice. So by the time we get there, like we'll have ways to tell that very, very quickly also. So, okay, I know we've talked a lot about like content strategy, what you've done, but I want to talk a little, you've grown an incredible business. So when you look back, just over the years, what would you say have been some of your keys to growing and scaling the business?
Well, getting from $0 to $1 million is totally possible to do it on your own. It's just like sheer will, brute force, dedication. It's not giving up. Like getting to your first 7 figures is a solo job. I think getting from 1 to 5, it's a matter of how fast you could scale your team. The team will help you go faster. And I do think that grit and like the dirt under your fingernails and the dirt in your teeth is really powerful. And that first, climb to 7 figures. But once you have like a proven offer, once you have product market fit, let the team take it and run. And I think that was like the biggest learning curve for me because, for a decade, I was a solopreneur and I built a really successful business. And I'm like, oh, well, having a team and I don't consider myself a leader. And I've never been like, I have my own homespun systems and we have a team like, no, we need SOPs and we need a standard way of doing things. And the story I told myself was that it was going to take me more to build that out. And that is true, but what I didn't know was how much more and fast we would be able to grow when you have a great group of people at your side.
So I'm going to ask you a follow-up question there. And one of the things that I see consistently, it's funny, we have a group of newer advisors to us, not new in the industry, but have joined our firm. We say all the time, our mission is to help good advisors become great business owners so they can help people have an amazing retirement. But where I want to go with that is so many advisors are very similar to what you just said. Like they got into the business because either they like the advising side. Candidly, a lot of times they're really good at sales, right? So they've been the person who's driven that business, met with every client. What we try and show them is like what you just said, is you put that team and the pieces around you. That's how you truly scale a business, create more, I would say freedom for yourself also. It's also the hardest transition for people to make. So as you look back on your own journey where you went from solopreneur to building this team out, were there some challenges that you faced in trying to, okay, now I've got to delegate out to the team and work through them more? And then how'd you overcome those?
I think what would be best would be like practical, real stories of like the 3 things that really like manifested as I was changing and building a team. The first one was actually our good friend Rory Vaden. I was sitting in a workshop and I'd never seen him before. I never knew who this guy was. And he came in and he talked about the 5X rule. Is that something that takes you an hour to do will take somebody else in the beginning 5 hours to do it.
Yep.
Something that takes you 10 hours is going to take somebody else 50 hours when they first start doing that. And when he said it, it was like a dam broke, because I thought I must be doing it wrong. And no, studies show that when you teach somebody something, they're going to be 5 times slower than you are, and you have to be okay with it. And it's not like you're a bad teacher or the person you hired was wrong. It's like, that's the norm. Now, anything beyond that, well, let's take it into a little bit of consideration. Anything shorter than that, well, God bless, look at you, you're killing the game. The second thing that was really like eye-opening for me was for me to be able to work myself out of a job as quickly as possible. And it was a series of 4 let's. The first one is, let's do it together so I can show you. Now, this does not necessarily scale for teams of 500, but as I was first building out my team, it was, let me show you how I do it. And then I'm going to say, let me see you do it. Then I'm going to say, I'm going to let you do it on your own. And if you have any questions, I'm here for you. And then I'm going to let you do it entirely.
Yep.
And so it helped to frame the context of the training period of where we were. Because if I'm going to let you do it and I'm here for questions, and you don't ask any questions, and I see that the outcome was not what the result should have been, I'm going to say, we were in the let me see you do it, and I'm here, and you didn't ask any questions. That was a downfall. We're going to go back. We're going to repeat this again so that you ask the question, so we get the result that we had pretty much been guaranteeing since the inception of the system. And then the last thing was being very, very, very hardcore and religious about onboarding within a 30, 60, 90-day period. And I'll get to like the pitfall. The pitfall was after 90 days, I'd be like, oh, they're kind of sort of there. They're showing a lot of potential. I think if we worked a little bit more with them, or were we being fair with their training? Did they get? And so we were in a constant state of, it must be us, when it wasn't. Because the person who we were kind of sort of iffy at that 90-day mark, if they were a good fit, they ended up not being a good fit 12 months later.
Yep.
And the opportunity cost, the drag on the team was not there. The minute like there is, I'll come out and say it, and maybe I'm a little too bullish on it, but we know if you're a really strong fit on the team within 60 days. And if you're kind of like, let's see where you at. Like, if you get to the 60-day mark and we're like close, no cigar, we're going to say, okay, this is where we're at. Very full disclosure. This is where we're at. So we're going to need to see these 3 things, these 5 things, this one thing in the next 30 days to show that you have the capacity to take feedback, to be humble enough on deploy, to ask any question that you need and get us the result. Because if we're not meeting that, we're just going to know it's probably not a good fit for you, probably not a good fit for us. And I wish that I would have been dogmatic about that 30, 60, 90-day period much earlier on.
It's funny. I tell our team here, especially newer leaders, I'm like, hey, if we hire someone and you're not seeing like great things, or if you're seeing red flags in the first 90 days, like that's probably a really good sign this isn't going to work out. You know, I'm like, if people don't come in and give you their best in the first 3 months, like that's probably a great sign this isn't going to be a good long-term fit. So,
or actually, maybe that is their best.
Yeah.
There's a high likelihood they're showing you your best and it's not good enough. And that's okay. That's okay.
Good too.
Let them find the best place for them.
How have you, the one other question I want to ask you about growth or strategy is like, how have you gone about thinking about diversifying or your revenue streams and growing those?
I'm at a place in my life and in my business to where I love operators. I'm obsessed with operators, and operations is always has been and probably will likely be my weak point. So I find great value in somebody who's an operator because I can work with a high functioning operator to start creating a diverse revenue stream. And so I don't ever pursue a different revenue stream until I've identified an operator at the outset.
Yeah.
And so, and it has to be somebody, and I usually identify these operators within the organization who display that type of kind of like thought pathology, and then how we work together. Then we throw out like a few ideas, and then it's great. They have such a different sense of ownership in what that is. And the business now becomes, you tell me what you need from a marketer and an educator. I'll cast a vision. After the vision's cast, you got to make it come to life. And then I become a role in the machine. My role in the machine is marketer and communicator or educator. They're kind of synonymous. If I'm teaching in a course, class, and offering, or if I'm on a stage, you tell me where I am in that. But no, I am not in operations. I'm not in logistics. I'm not in management. I play a role in your machine. I'm cool with that. Anything beyond that, and it becomes operations management, I'm just like, okay, this is not a fit for me at this point in time.
How long did it take you to figure out that that's your like unique fit and that's how you add the most value to the
Way
organization?
too long.
Okay.
Way too long. I'm like 14 years because I think I found deep value, and this came literally out of nowhere. Probably lots of therapy revealed that I like when it's hard because then I could I prove I'm enough. I prove I matter. And then I just became so exhausted because what required a Herculean effort to deploy required a Herculean effort to sustain. I ended up being so, quote unquote successful and so freaking exhausted because I was doing things I was never hardwired to do.
Yeah.
Now my capacity is much higher because I'm doing the things that give me life. I'm doing things that I'm good at. And anything I'm not good at, I'm like, I trust you to really build out a team who's going to get us to where we want to go.
I say all the time, I'm fortunate to feel like I'm in that position here now also, but when you get there as an owner or entrepreneur where you can spend your time in the things that you're best at to give you energy and hire people to do the things that you don't maybe, or don't give you energy, it's a great place to be. So congrats. Okay.
Well, thank you.
One question then I want to ask you, just these quick lightning round questions, but what's next? Like what's the thing on the horizon that you're excited about?
We have a couple of projects percolating, and just this past weekend, I got away. I had to get away and do some like white space work in a place like I'm very I love working from home. My husband is my business partner. We were high school sweethearts. Like I like him. Like I really really like him. And so time away from him weighs heavily on me. I am a mother of a daughter, and she is my whole life. She is my joie de vivre. She is the reason that I breathe, eat, dream. I just want to eat her up with a spoon. Time away from her is taxing on me, but I decided to pay the rent of that. I decided to pay the tax of being away by myself in order for me to create the revenue or the next chapter. And so I'm in an honest state of iteration of casting the next vision. I'm so thankful to work with the team that I have, and it's giving me the space and the latitude to do this. I would be completely in a place of disservice and lying if I said I had the next idea.
Yeah.
I'm a work in progress at this point in time.
I love it. Okay, let's jump into these quick lightning round questions. They can be short answers or long answers, whatever you want. So the first,
short. Let's go.
Yeah.
Short.
The first one I love asking is, I think COVID made every leader reevaluate things, right? And maybe it's like a new lessons learned. So maybe that's a simple question. Is there one lesson that you learned over the past few years post-COVID that you think you'll carry forward for the rest of your life?
I became a mother in 2020, and I used to think that my goal and ambition was to create an in-person team in office. And in COVID, it became very secure in the fact that I want to build a virtual team. I like it, I thrive in it, and I want to attract the best of the best, regardless of our zip code.
That's cool. Second question, what is the one thing that you have done that graduated you from being good to great?
Doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. Consistency.
That's a word we've heard a few times from you now. So, and I always say like success leaves clues, right? The most successful people tend to be the most consistent too. Okay, third question. Is there something that you are doing this year to drive your own personal growth that you are excited about?
I recently joined a 4-month executive group coaching program with VaynerMedia and Gary Vaynerchuk. I feel like I'm completely out of my league. I feel like I'm a fish out of water, but I've always maintained I want to be the poorest girl in every room, the dumbest girl in every room, and the least qualified to be on the yacht. When all of those things come true, I know I'm in the right place.
So that'll be a lot of fun. So, and that's probably a really good room to be in, is my guess. Okay.
So.
Yeah. Fourth question. What is the book that you have recommended most to other entrepreneurs?
Oh, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
That's a new one. We haven't got that one on here. So,
is there? It's such a simple read. This is like take it on an airplane read or read one chapter at night because they're short chapters. They're super didactic. It is a mindset book more than anything else, but it is literally like how do you swim in bigger fish bowls?
It's great.
It's a good one.
He'll probably get a bump in sales, so I love it. Okay, final question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Jump and the net will appear. It was if I remember distinctly, I never thought that I would be able to build a business. I thought that was saved for other people. When I made the declaration that I wanted to start a business, probably within the first 2 months, somebody had said to me, jump and the net will appear. And every time I have taken a jump, as scary and awful and fearful and doubtful and scrappy as it was, the net appeared. And so I still continue to step into that.
That's so good. Very similar. I heard John Maxwell's done a lot with us over the last few years, and I heard him say it's very similar. He said, I've learned in life that when I start walking, God starts working. And, very similar. If he just said, like, when you start taking action, which is exactly what you said, right? Jump and the net's going to appear. So the resources, the things you need come alongside you. So Jasmine, this has been a great time today. Thank you for taking the time. I know we've hit on your online presence, but do you just want to share, like, how can people follow along and see all the incredible things you're doing?
Yes. I mean, we're talking and we're on video and podcast. So I'm JasmineStar.com, Jasmine Star on all social platforms, and The Jasmine Star Show, which is my podcast. Go
follow along. She does an awesome job. If you enjoyed this episode, please go share it with it. This is one, too, that you probably want to go share with your marketing director, whoever's doing your marketing for you, too. So, Jasmine, again, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.